see the state of your radiator, look, where it's all starting to perish away and it's all blocked up and stuff like that. Various bits of leaves.
This is actually
Bits of Africa.
this is gum tree leaves.
Oh, nice. And I'm sure that's a bug there from Africa as well.
It's the right time to change
Definitely, 100%.
Earlier that morning, I loaded up the Defender with a bunch of spares I bought for all the jobs I figured it might need. Jobs I wasn't totally confident enough to do on my own.
I'm here this morning at my local Land Rover Specialist Gumtree 4x4. Got a bunch of stuff that needs doing. I say a bunch of stuff, a laundry list. Basically, the idea is I'm trying to build reliability into this before my summer plans. What I'm aiming at is to get the timing belt done, the steering box done, new radiator, new intercooler, new hoses, a service, and whatever else they can find wrong with it. So it's going to be a big bill, but we'll see how it goes. The guys are going to get it on the ramp in a minute. I'm kind of nervously excited, but also scared of what they might find.
There was one job ahead of me, so it was a little bit of a wait, but soon enough it was up on the ramp. And I just want to pause there and show you the previous vehicle they were working on. It was a Defender 90 300 TDI, but it sounded completely different. Different in an amazing way. It was so smooth and refined I didn't even recognize it. But Ben explained that it was a Turner Engineering engine rebuild, and through some sort of magic they made this humble 300 TDI as sweet as a nut.
I can't believe that this is the same engine that I had. I just can't believe it.
And this gave me hope for my tired old motor. Anyway, back to the story. The other Ben, yes, there are two in this tiny workshop, got started by removing all the bolts surrounding the old radiator. We were going to prioritize the timing belt change with the remainder of the day, as that was the job I was least able to do on my own. Everything else wasn't essential right now.
And there we go, one fan.
Having the know-how, the tools and the confidence from experience, Ben tore the front of the engine off in no time at all. And this also revealed that the fan belt was on its very last legs. But the tensioner bearing was still okay.
Yeah, no, that's pretty good. Tension is good.
He then removed the other drive belts, which were going to be replaced anyway, before starting to disconnect the radiator hoses and letting that drain out. Always a messy job. I had had a few overheating issues in the past, so I thought it best to replace the radiator and intercooler with new aluminium ones while the timing belt job was being done, since the old ones were absolutely toast and needed to come out to do this job anyway. We were now at the part of the job which Ben had been dreading, removing the lower pulley, which apparently can be an absolute nightmare.
Oh my god, I'm amazed at that.
Why?
Normally, you have to wrestle these and fight them, so then that just slips straight off.
He's a good boy.
That's a good boy.
He's a good boy.
Now the timing belt cover could be removed to reveal another problem.
Oh, it's got an oil leak in there.
Yeah?
It's got a bit of an oil leak in there.
Oh. What does that mean?
But both Bens ignored my worries and changed the subject.
Yeah, it's pretty much timed up, isn't it?
This now meant I'd need to leave the vehicle with them for a couple of days to get that sorted. And not even 24 hours after I collected it, I was back at Gumtree because it decided to blow a core plug and spray coolant everywhere. Land Rovers, right? A few days later, after the timing belt, new radiator and core plug had been sorted, and the big bill had been settled, I'd figured I'd save a few quid and do the filter service myself. Doing the filter service isn't a big deal. I've done it half a dozen times or so between this Defender and the Discovery one I had some years ago. It's a simple enough process. You warm up the car a little bit, open the oil filler cap and remove the sump plug. Let it drain out and start on the air filter while it's draining. Almost muscle memory at this stage. This meant my mind wandered back to some conversations I'd had with the Bens at Gumtree. I thought of that insanely refined, rebuilt Turner Engineering 300 TDI and how I'd like mine to be like that. feel like that, and drive like that. But both Bens agreed that that was an expensive option and you still end up with a 300 TDI engine. And then Ben number 1 threw a spanner in the works and suggested I look into doing a BMW M57 engine swap. At which I thought, well, my only reference for that is Dave, the king of M57 conversions, from a channel called Maker on YouTube. A really interesting channel which you should check out if you're considering it. Well, what I thought I knew about doing a conversion is that it costs tens of thousands of pounds. A bit rich for me and for this Defender, to be honest. But Ben number 1 said that he had done the exact conversion to his Defender 200 TDI and it wasn't too tricky or expensive. Plus, he'd be able to do the conversion for me at a decent price, keeping it well under £10,000. A faster, more powerful, smoother, very reliable, quieter and nicer to drive engine. And while I desperately try to prevent this 27-year-old engine from dropping oil over my new drive, and I've just spent over £1,000 repairing it, I'm starting to like the idea of this M57 swap.
Right, I've got that cleaner than what my face is right now. Oh look, I've sanded down. Look at the state of me. Good grief, man. More importantly, this is nice and clean, and now I can get the new gasket maker stuff on there. I've done the same to the bottom of the engine block. We can stick this new gasket on. I can nip it all up and call it a day.
I know this looks extremely bodge, but this is apparently the correct way to seal the sump. No wonder Land Rovers always leak. And if you were wondering if it's difficult to squeeze really thick gooey sealant out of something the size of a toothpaste tube, you'd be more than right. I had to squeeze so hard and for so long that by the end of it I didn't have enough strength in my hands to even scratch my arse.
Alright, all the black gooey gaskety stuff is on, and I'm going to stick it fast to the bottom of the engine now and put all the bolts back in. Wish me luck. Okay, here we go.
The sump had to go on without the sealant going everywhere, so I wouldn't have the opportunity to reposition it. It's kind of a one-time effort. Then it had to stay like that for 24 hours while it's set, before I could put oil back into the engine. And there are 22 size 10 bolts which hold it in place. 21 went on perfectly, and you guessed it, number 22 didn't. The thread had previously been stripped out and it just wouldn't tighten up. So I washed up and went to bed. The next morning I came back to the workshop with a plan. I thought I'd tap out the dodgy bolt hole to the next size thread, but the only bolt I could find with the correct thread needed to be trimmed down to the right length. I also figured out what had happened. Whoever resealed the sump the last time over tightened that bolt and blew out the threads, because when I cleaned out the hole, about 4 different colored blobs of gasket sealant which had been wedged at the bottom of the hole came out, and that obviously stopped you from tightening the bolt down. Anyway, now this sump has 21 size 10 bolts and 1 size 15. And in case you're interested, I'm using Castrol GTX 15W40, a slightly thicker oil which apparently quietens the engine down a bit and doesn't leak as much. The 300 TDI takes about 6.8 litres according to the Haynes manual.
Now, a little something I've been doing to my vehicles for a long time is I use this stuff. It might sound gimmicky and all that sort of stuff, but these guys, ZX1, were the first ever video client that I ever got. It was my first video assignment. And so it was a video of shooting them testing this stuff in the lab. And I was blown away at how this stuff bonds to the metal and reduces friction. So I'm sold, and I've been putting it in my vehicles since 2009. Yeah, it's worked so far.
It's called ZX1 Extra Lube, which you can get off of Amazon. And it's an oil additive which molecularly bonds to the metal components in the engine and drastically reduces friction and heat, and therefore reducing wear and tear and hopefully extending the life of the engine. A bit of a rough start, but after a while and once it had warmed up, it really did sound a whole lot better. And I didn't even spot any leaks for the moment. However, by the time I'd walked back around the other side of the Landy, I noticed a problem. The core plug, which had just been replaced, was leaking again. So now I'd have to go back to Gumtree. 24 hours later, it was still leaking pretty badly.
This is a ongoing issue, this coolant leak, so I'm heading back to Gumtree this morning. Hopefully they can redo the core plugs, which is starting to leak again. But the upside is I do get to try Ben's M57 conversion Defender, so I'm excited about that.
Again, I started thinking about this engine swap idea, leaving behind all these little niggles you get with an old engine. Could it still be considered a true Land Rover, I thought? And do I even care? I want to keep this Defender forever if possible, so why not make it better? Well, we'll see what the test drive reveals.
This is Ben's M57 swapped Defender. Man, I'm seriously considering doing the same to mine. Sounds so good. You can barely hear it. Alright, let's hop in, go for a drive. Oh! This throttle response. Oh my word, this is sick. Crazy! Man, this thing absolutely chomps the hills. I can't believe it. Yeah, pretty smitten. You know, it's like having this conversation with Ben thinking, oh, well, you know, it's not going to be a proper Land Rover anymore. It doesn't have the Land Rover engine. I have no plans to ever sell my car, so why should I worry about that? And I want it to be as reliable and as drivable as possible to be able to use it as an overland vehicle. So why wouldn't I do that? I mean, having to buy a whole new vehicle, say I want to go because I'm scared of things, buy a Toyota Land Cruiser, you know, I'm going to be in for 15,000–20,000 pounds. Or I could keep my Defender, put an M57 like this in it, and have something that can keep up with modern traffic, not sluggish and dead and slow and potentially unreliable. Why wouldn't I do this? So nice. So nice. It's smooth, it's got power. If I